Hold up, I ain't trying to stump, man, but the Yeezys jumped over the jump, man. I be in and out of arenas like I'm Scottie Pippen.
Left my elbow in the pot, a la Vince Carter.
Bitch, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym?
James Harden with the range on me, nigga, way back.
Coach, they won't knock me off my pivot, get it.
Been flowing stupid since Vince Carter was on some through the legs arm and a hoop shit.
And you could live through anything if magic made it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, now you do.
Yes, sir. We are back. Round of applause for yourselves. Lovers of the association. This is your guy, Marcellus Ease. And we got a few things on the docket today. We're going to go over Draymond Green and that rollout that he had for the league to welcome him back after that 12-game suspension. And we're also going to talk about Gordon Hayward. He reflects back on that 2017 Celtics team that had Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Terry Rozier. There was a lot of conflicts within that team, and Hayward kind of breaks down some of the dynamics that were at play that prevented that team from making their run to an NBA championship. And also, we'll take a step back and look at a few things that are playing out culturally throughout the league, as the NFL started broadcasting some of their playoff games exclusively on streaming services, which is pretty much going to be a business model the NBA will begin to institute once their brand new TV/streaming deals come into play. But will it be the same reaction from the NBA fan base, especially when it comes to their engagement? That's been one question that's been lingering over a lot of NBA executives' heads going into some of these landmark TV/streaming deal negotiations. And finally, we'll touch base on Karl Anthony Towns, as he was asked why didn't he come to Rudy Gobert's defense and how he did not fall into that trap similar to the 2004-2005 Indiana Pacers, as they were a team that was championship bound, just like the Minnesota Timberwolves this season, being first place in their conference, but yet their season was derailed because they had a few players that kind of fell into that bag of being quote unquote a real one. So the NBA had reinstated Draymond Green after he missed 12 games for the Golden State Warriors for his second incident this season with Yusuf Nurkic. Just that wild turbo punch that he was doing was insane. But there's multiple layers to this in a way, because for one, the Golden State Warriors right now are kind of going through a transition with their lineups. CP3, his fit, and Andrew Wiggins coming into the season out of shape, not playing well defensively, and his play has deteriorated so much it's caused the Warriors to have him come off the bench. But then when he runs with the bench unit, sometimes the fit with Kuminga doesn't really quite work. And if Kuminga has a breakout game, there seems to be politics with playing some of the starters over the younger guys, especially guys like Moody also. So there's a lot of different dynamics going on with the Warriors, and Andrew Wiggins' contract is really, in the 3 years remaining on Andrew Wiggins' contract, at the end of the day, is really hurting this team. But Draymond Green spoke on his return on his podcast show, which interesting enough has not had any new episodes since July of last year. So about 6 months have gone by, no episodes, and he not only chooses this special occurrence to be a rollout for eyeballs on his show, he actually even got an extension with the Volume, Colin Cowherd's podcast, which dispels some of his talking points about retirements, etc. You guys check out the segment, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I had a conversation with Adam Silver, commissioner of our league. I just told him, Adam, it's too much for me. Like, this is too much. It's all becoming too much for me. And I'm going to retire. And Adam said, you're making a very rash decision.
Now, I don't know if this right here is for theatrics, but this is a very unique position that Draymond is taking when bringing up his conversation with Adam Silver. First of all, we all know he's not going to retire. He has 3 years left on that $100 million extension that he recently signed. And number two, we all know Adam Silver does not want Draymond disappearing on the Warriors, which is pretty much going to cause a domino effect, as that whole Golden State Warriors storyline is going to start to disappear. They're not going to be as a relevant team as before because they're already having struggles to begin with. And make no mistake about it, the Warriors are a very important storyline for the NBA, and they're a storyline that's making a lot of money. I mean, their evaluation as a team jumped up past the New York Yankees, past the New York Knicks. They're just under the Dallas Cowboys with an evaluation of $7 billion, and the Cowboys are at $9 billion. So Draymond Green is a very important piece to the Splash Brothers, and even Klay Thompson is a very important piece, even though he's struggling. But the main piece on that chessboard is Stephen Curry, which adds into that evaluation, and also the league making money off that Golden State storyline. So the league definitely needs them to be relevant.
And I won't let you do that. You know, we had a long, great conversation, very helpful to me. Very thankful to play in a league with a commissioner like Adam, who's more about helping you than hurting you, or helping you than punishing you, or, you know, he's more about the player.
Now, marketing wise, Adam Silver appears to be more about the players, but make no mistake about it, he works for the owners and their interests. The people that work for the players are part of the players union. That's why they negotiate with Adam Silver for that collective bargaining agreement. But the NBA has done a great job as far as their marketing. And I see Draymond Green utilizing some of these tactics here on his rollout, not only for his show to benefit, but also to soften the blow with the quote unquote mental illness aspect of it. Oh, I consider retirement, my well-being. They say certain trigger words to activate certain sentiments. The same way Adam Silver this season has activated a sort of rollout by using certain words and public figures like Joe Dumars, as he's the guy that's presenting this rollout of the players playing 65 games and playing a whole season. Anytime he's asked about it, he's always mentioning Joe Dumars' name. And the NBA is really a league of marketers, man. These guys are very well crafted in what words they use and how they present certain things for the audience to kind of embrace it. And an NBA agent by the name of Mark Termini has always presented this idea that the NBA is really a league of marketing. And for those of you who don't know, Mark Termini is the agent that has been kind of, I don't want to say finessing the NBA owners, but he's been putting them on Front Street to pay players since Michael Jordan's been playing in the league. And LeBron James and Rich Paul have modeled their whole Clutch Sports business off of his playbook. He is basically the person that showed them some of the tactics that got Ben Simmons paid and some of the tactics that got LeBron making $20 million extra by accepting 1-and-1 deals during his return in Cleveland. So there was always a way Mark Termini always had to position himself as an agent to fully maximize a player's potential while avoiding all these marketing tactics that the owners throw at the players, like loyalty to a team. The same tactics they kind of threw at LeBron when he first left Cleveland, him not being loyal to a franchise. No player owes a franchise. The same way the franchise don't owe a player. When they ship them off, nobody cares. So LeBron was the player to begin to show the other superstars that they should put themselves and their families first. But Mark Termini spoke about the very craftiness of the league being marketeers. You guys check out this segment, and every once in a while I'll check in.
Well, because my career, Brian, as you know, it's been behind the scenes the way I want it to be, and I purposely kept it there for a number of reasons, business oriented and others. But the NBA is the best, most successful, most powerful sports marketing organization in the world. They deserve all the credit for that. But my job and my duty was to my clients to maximize their situations as players. But the NBA is the best, most successful, most powerful sports marketing organization in the world. They deserve all the credit for that. But my job and my duty was to my clients to maximize their situations as players, to protect them from the business challenges that would come about in this very tough business of being a professional athlete. And I learned over the years, not only as kind of a characterization, but as a protective mechanism, to realize that players and agents that come into the league and think that the perception of any sports organization, professional sports organization, from the NCAA, which is a professional sports organization, to the NBA, to the NFL, They're in business to maximize their profits and to put on their production. And if you don't realize that early on, you're going to learn a very harsh lesson. So I just try to explain to the clients and the people that I advise that you cannot be naive to what this is as a business. That could be through trade, injury situation I just explained, and all the, I'm going to categorize, we'll talk about more items of propaganda. The league is extremely skilled at messaging, at their verbiage, and the fact that NBA Cares might be a great program for rehabbing houses or courts in the city. When it comes to your business as a player, protect yourself and have somebody that's going to know how to protect you.
So there you have it. You hear it from Mark Termini himself. This is an agent that's been in the league for over 30 years. And once again, Clutch Sports, LeBron James and Rich Paul, this is the guy they hired to basically show them the ropes of the business and basically be the foundation of Clutch Sports and all their tactics when approaching negotiation tables with owners. Because Termini throughout his years have always been fighting through propaganda and sort of leverage that owners have as being billionaires to try to position plays into taking less money. But going back to the propaganda side, this Draymond Green rollout has been carefully orchestrated. He understood what words to choose, what trigger points to activate. He considered retirement or my mental health, all this bullshit nowadays where you have people that have great wealth, great influence, but yet a lot of people are acting like victims. This is just to garner certain sentiments so you can feel sorry for them as you welcome them back in to their position of power or just influence. But Draymond Green damn well knows he can't retire because he's tied in to the Stephen Curry storyline. I guess he was just hoping Adam Silver wasn't going to throw the hammer at him and suspend him for 60 games. But I doubt that was going to happen because once again, that Stephen Curry storyline with the Warriors, it makes the NBA a lot of money, especially on an international level. And just like how Mark Termini said, the league's main business is to put on a production, put on an entertainment product, a show. And I'm glad to see Draymond Green kind of took that same formula and pointed the eyeballs towards his show, as almost in a way he kind of acknowledges that a lot of this is a kind of soap opera-ish. So Gordon Hayward had did a sit down where he kept it real honest about what happened to that mid-2010s Boston Celtics team. And before I get to what he said, I'm going to say this. That Celtics team had a few interesting dynamics. For one, they got Kyrie Irving off the Cleveland Cavaliers for just a second-round pick. Of course, they had a young Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but due to the unfortunate circumstance of Gordon Hayward going down with a season-ending injury and Kyrie during the season going down with an injury, it led to an interesting dynamic where the young pups, Tatum, Brown, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, they led that team far into the playoffs with no expectations. And in the following year in 2018, they came into that season having expectations to either make the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. It brought a brand new pressure to the young pups that they never seen before, and I think they had a little bit bark to them when it came to taking some of the lessons from the elder players like Gordon Hayward and especially Kyrie Irving. That was Kyrie's first time really leading a team, especially young, hungry pups that had been proven the season before that they could lead the charge. And when you add on to that, Gordon Hayward did not return from his injury quite as the same player. But the Celtics were paying him a lot of money at the time, and I believe politics came into play where he had to get minutes over certain guys. So that kind of led to a clash of the young pups and Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. So we'll see what Hayward had to say about it. You guys check out this segment, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I mean, that part was all brand new to me. I'd never been on a team that was expected to compete for a title and or win a title. But I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go there. Because I knew that they had, that if I went there, we would have something special. And, you know, our training camp, I felt like we were trying to get adjusted to each other. I wouldn't say we were firing on all cylinders because there's a lot of new pieces that we brought. And not only myself, but Kyrie was brand new as well. And, you know, JT and JB, everyone's trying to fit together. But I think you could see it, the flashes that in training camp, you could just see that we were special. And so leading up to that, yeah, I mean, it was something that I hadn't been a part of. In my eyes, it was just, we all had, you know, there's too many agendas. the agenda to win the whole thing was not the main one.
The young pups, too many cooks in the kitchen, and the young pups, aka Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they were more obsessed with winning individual accolades, which is a normal thing. A lot of young players, once they come in the league, they want to get established. They want to go make all-star appearances, get certain awards, most improved player, rookie awards. So the individual awards for a star to establish himself as a figurehead in the league is very important. And they were not going to let an injury-riddled player like Gordon Hayward coming into the 2018 season get in their way of that.
And not to blame anyone either, because I think it was all human nature. I mean, I'm coming back from where the last season that I played, I was an all-star. So I'm trying to prove that I'm still an all-star. Kyrie was hurt the year before too, didn't miss the playoffs. So he's trying to prove like this is still his team. And then you've got JT and Jaylen and Terry, who are coming off where they're all starting, make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think, the year before. Like they're all trying to prove like we've arrived and we've made it, and I'm an all-star. And
that Terry Rozier boy, I tell you what, he was definitely one of the leaders of the pack that was barking back at the veteran players, because he was even in a contract year, and he let it be known that he was not only looking for a bigger deal when it came to the money, he was also looking for a starting role.
Then you had Marcus Smart trying to prove he should be starting and leading the team, and we also had Marcus Morris, who's really good. Like we had
Marcus Smart, another guy that sort of serves as a fan favorite for the Celtics, but he's one of those fan favorites where once the team moves off of him and have enough balls to trade him, they tend to take another step up to a different tier. We've seen that with DeMar DeRozan in Toronto. Once they got rid of him, Kawhi stepped up and they were able to go all the way to the NBA Finals. The whole time that team was a championship team, but we would have never known that had they stayed with DeRozan. You could take a look at Marcus Smart. Once the Celtics moved off of him and realized his defense every year was steadily on the decline, they upgraded and got KP and some other pieces, and now they look like a whole different squad. The Celtics look like they got a brand new boost of energy. That team looks completely different. And this is going to allow them during the playoffs, especially running that offense in the half court, that they're going to have a low post threat like KP. So they don't have to rely on Tatum and Brown just dribbling up top nonstop. They could just dump it down low, and KP is going to be a major threat down there. And he could stretch the floor. So teams definitely, once they let go of that homegrown talent, fan favorite, especially if that player's on the decline or they just need one more piece, they keep hitting a wall, they tend to move up another tier. And one of the teams that's a prime example of just not moving up to the next level is the Philadelphia 76ers, the year that they had Jimmy Butler. The real move was for them to move off of Ben Simmons and give Jimmy Butler the extension.
Y'all were loaded.
We had probably 8 players that could go, that had career highs of like over 40, who were all like arguably in their prime. Like it's not like we were old and everyone used to, like everyone was still like
I mean, and even at this time, like Al Horford, yeah, young.
He's still exactly. So we had so many players, and we just could. And the other, in my opinion, the other problem is there was too many of us in the exact same position. We all needed the ball. We all rocked with the ball. Like Kyrie isn't necessarily a spot up shooter. Like I'm not really a spot up shooter. JT's not so none of it. Like we all like to have the ball and do our thing, and there's only one basketball. It's hard to make that work. And so I think that was our biggest issue, was we were just trying to all prove stuff individually and never really came together as a team. And even so, we still made it to the second round, and that was with all the difficulties that we had.
And their coach, Brad Stevens, even though he got anointed as being a great coach with not much proven, he could not juggle all those different personalities and just overall all those different scenarios. The fact that Gordon Hayward did not return as the same player, but yet he was making a lot of money, so he had to get minutes, and then he couldn't manage the young pups like Tatum and Brown and just kind of bringing them down to a more realistic level. Even though they had success the previous season, that was success without any expectations, and the pressure was a lot different coming into that 2018 season. And also just Kyrie Irving, which is icing on a cake, all his quirkiness and just him getting adjusted to being a team leader.
Basketball, like we had
like
out.
8 of them.
Okay.
At least.
Wait, did you guys walk away from it like with a level of comfort knowing that like, all right, we're on the same page here?
It got worse every time.
I mean, it was like one of those things where it's like we've had 5 players only meetings and, you know, things were said that were the right things, but I think it, like I said, it's just in one ear, right out the other. Like, okay, that sounds nice, and we do need people to sacrifice, and we need it, but that person shouldn't be me.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It should be him to sacrifice, and I'll be the one that's leading the team. Yeah. But everyone's thinking that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could give you stories for days on that, but
tell them that's what we're here for.
That's not. I can't. I'm not allowed to do that. So
that's that. No, we don't want to open any votes that shouldn't be open.
Yeah.
But I just only asked that because it's a similar situation to what we had to go through here to start the year out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, adding James to this group and the conversations we had to have about sacrificing and what that looked like. And I think it's different from where we're at to where you guys were at. We're an older group. Everyone's been paid. Everyone's, you know, it's not.
Everyone's already got their accolades. Everyone's made their all NBA teams to have their all-star appearances. Some people got MVP trophies. Yeah, it's quite different. It's quite different. And once again, it's interesting that Hayward did not even mention Terry Rozier. This guy was letting it be known that he wanted a large contract. Everyone knew he was hitting free agency.
Not like we're individually still trying to crack this code of who we are in the league. We all kind of know who we are. And at this point, only one of us has won, and that's Kawhi. So it's like whatever it is to do that we need to do individually to win. Like, I'll make that sacrifice. So yeah, that was the only reason we asked.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's that you hit that part huge. I mean, it's like you guys are clearly, and I mean, Emerson was saying yesterday, he saw you, he was watching the game and was just seeing the conversations that you guys were having during timeouts amongst each other. Like clearly they're trying to win.
Mm-hmm.
They could see that they're trying to figure it out and trying to put together a big time run here, which I mean, after playing you guys, it should definitely be possible.
So there you have it. The perspective from Gordon Hayward, which is very interesting because once again, he was that guy that was coming off that injury that kind of had to prove himself among all the hungry young pups of Tatum, Brown, Terry Rozier. Him trying to get back to that all-star level, I can only imagine, was very frustrating, especially for the forwards of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, because at the end of the day, the Celtics they were going to give him the minutes over those guys. He was just getting paid over $30 million a year, while the young pups were still under their rookie scale contracts for about $5 million a year. So front office politics definitely were at play, as Gordon Hayward was one of their biggest signees, and they basically got Kyrie Irving for free for just a second round pick from the Cavs. So I can only imagine Tatum and Brown having the success from the 2017 season, going to the Eastern Conference Finals against LeBron, coming off of that, and is being relegated to having less minutes for a player that's clearly not coming off an injury as the same person. I see Paul George it's unfortunate Paul George didn't really want to press that angle, but some of the rift of those young guys, and like Hayward said, having too many forwards. You had Marcus Smart who could play forward, Marcus Morris, Tatum, Brown. These guys all had good synergy, especially during their 2017 playoff run without Kyrie or Gordon Hayward. But Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens should have found a way to kind of get rid of some guys because there was way too many chefs in the kitchen. But it is what it is. You see the main difference between a team that's juggling vets with young guys, along with a team like the Clippers, how Paul George spoke. Everyone's already on the same page. They all already had their individual accolades and large contracts. So the synergy is quite different. So as the NBA is in the midst of their TV negotiations, we're seeing the possibilities, especially with the NFL and their wildcard weekend being streamed exclusively on Peacock, which is almost serving as the lab rat for the NBA to take notes to see if they're going to accept large sums of money to stream certain games exclusively, especially with the batch of brand new inventory they've added to the league recently with the in-season tournament as well as the play-in, which at the moment look like very lucrative pieces to have that can get a one-time cash payout to stream exclusively maybe on Apple Plus, Amazon, or even other streaming services like Peacock. But we're going to hear a soundbite from Mike Francesca explaining how the NFL audience might have a bit pushback. And unlike the NBA, the NFL audience is a lot older and they might not be as savvy as trying to find the games on streaming services, as the NBA audience is definitely much savvier with interacting with the league through NBA Twitter and also watching different live streams by former players making commentary during the games. You guys check out this segment, and every once in a while I'll check in.
Going to cause a lot of yelling and screaming this week because the NFL, which has the best, the biggest, the best, and the most loyal fan base anywhere, decides to basically thumb its nose at its fan base and just make another greedy reach for another bundle of money like they need it. And now we have the Peacock playoff exclusive, which you have to pay for. How many people in America don't have cable TV? How many people in America don't have smart TV?
Now, this right there is an NFL problem. Most NBA fans are already savvy with the smart TVs and the streaming. This is where the NFL might hit the wall because a lot of their demographics are a lot older. But you could flip the coin on the other side. The NBA, unlike the NFL, does not have a loyal fan base to the NBA. A lot of the NBA audience is loyal to certain players. They're not really loyal to the league or to teams. But when it comes to the NFL, that's the polar opposite.
How many people in America don't even know what streaming is, no less finding streaming, or willing to pay an extra amount to get a playoff game?
By the way, those playoff games that's going to be streamed exclusively on Peacock, there is no free trial. That's definitely behind a paywall, similar to pay-per-view.
This is a joke that the NFL would do this with their playoff product. It's bad enough they would do it with a regular season game on a Thursday night, or do it with a regular season game on a Saturday. But to do it with a playoff game is the biggest slap in the face to their national fan base. People wait all year for these playoff games. They love these playoff games, and you're going to now charge them extra for a playoff game? They don't give enough. You don't make enough. The word is that the NFL got $110 million to stream this game from Peacock. They got $110 million to stream this one game exclusively.
Now you start to see where the NBA in-season tournament as well as the play-in kind of factor in. These are games in which they have major urgency, as it's pretty much a one-time knockout round. So these games gonna have sense of urgency, and they are definitely major inventory pieces to get a one-time payout from streaming services. So you start to understand why Adam Silver in the past few years has started adding these little in-season tournaments and games that have sense of urgency into the league. These are just brand new pieces of inventory to kind of position the NBA to get a similar deal as the NFL did with streaming services as well as their broadcast partners.
Is this the wave of the future? They're going to have a hard time doing it with playoff games because there's going to be a tremendous fallout from this. And there should be, because it is the utterly disgraceful, greedy reach by the NFL. Like they don't make enough money. Like their fans don't go into their pocket for jerseys, for all kinds of NFL merchandise, for tickets that are very expensive across the country. They don't show up and are there religiously every Sunday. And now you're going to charge them for a playoff game? It is the ultimate slap in the face to the best and most ardent and the most dramatically important fan base in America. Nobody gets the ratings, not even close, of what the NFL gets. And it's never enough.
And that's where the NBA is going to run into the wall. You see the loyalty the NFL fan bases have? I mean, they got situations in which they're asking certain fans in certain regions to come to the stadiums and shovel the snow out the stands. And the fans will just come through just to do that off the love of the team. I mean, when some of these teams land, like the Buffalo Bills, when they land in their city, they got fans standing at the airport. The NBA teams overall don't get that type of love. You see that type of fandom with soccer clubs throughout the world, like Manchester United, Barcelona, or Bayern Munich in Germany. But that type of fandom, when it comes to NBA teams, is very different in the United States. A lot of the NBA audience, once again, is pretty much loyal to certain players. And there's very few teams that have actual team loyalty like the Lakers or the New York Knicks. But the NFL is serving as a guinea pig for the NBA to see how these type of deals work out and what are the lump sums of money they can get. And I believe the NBA is headed towards this route with some of the earlier playoff rounds, as well as maybe 1 or 2 games for the in-season tournament, as well as the play-in. But due to the way fans don't really have to watch the games throughout in order to place wagers on the game, just like the NFL, there's a sense of urgency to watch these games. You can see it with NFL Red Zone. It's just more exciting for them to watch the NFL game around gambling than it is for the NBA. So there's a sense of urgency to actually watch these games for guys to see what's going on in their fantasy teams, as well as their wagers. It's almost like the NFL is a perfectly designed game to gamble on, and that leads to a lot of fan interaction. For the NBA, you could just really look at the injury list before these games and place a wager. You don't necessarily have to watch the game.
Anytime they can find another pile of money to grab, they grab it with both hands, and it never stops.
And the NBA is definitely no different. Now, Karl Anthony Towns did a sit-down where he was asked about not coming to Rudy Gobert's defense when Draymond Green was basically choking him out like one of the Looney Tunes. And before we get to what he said, I want to say this. Kudos to Karl Anthony Towns for not falling into that Steven Jackson trap, where he's basically out here to prove I'm a real one. Because this exact scenario had happened in the past in the NBA, where the Indiana Pacers almost made the NBA Finals in 2004, where they finished the season with 61 wins and 21 losses, and got rid of their 6th man of the year, Al Harrington, for Steven Jackson. And in that following season, that was perhaps Reggie Miller's best opportunity to get an NBA championship, with the roster containing Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, Jamal Tinsley, and Jermaine O'Neal. And as we all know how it played out with the Palace and the Malice, that team basically ended up falling off after all those suspensions. But one thing is for certain, we never talk about the fallout for quote-unquote trying to be a real one. As Steven Jackson not only faced suspension for over a year, but he was fighting and crawling and even begging his way back into the league. And Karl Anthony Towns this season almost fell into that same scope, as the Minnesota Timberwolves have spent a lot of money on this roster, renewing the contracts of Jalen McDaniels, and not only previously taking on the contracts of Rudy Gobert and also Mike Conley. So this roster is pretty much stacked up. They got players that are playing much improved, and they're pretty much championship bound as long as they stay the course. But unlike the T-Wolves this season, the 2004 Pacers were left in ruins after having an all-time NBA player like Reggie Miller not being able to capitalize and get his chance for opportunity to become an NBA champion. And Captain Jack, aka Steven Jackson, was also reminded on his results of quote-unquote trying to be a real one by Isaiah Thomas when he checked him and reminded him that who did he call when he was begging to get back in the league. This is the type of shit that they never ever talk about. But yet they're gonna question Towns, oh, is he a real one? Why didn't he step up and choke Draymond out? But you guys can see for yourselves how Isaiah Thomas not only checked Steven Jackson, but how he was stumbling on his words, acting like he didn't know what he was talking about.
I got a lot of stories that ain't got out.
Oh, yeah, we know that. We know that.
Jack, you should tell him the one about when you almost got ran out of this league.
Where we're at? In Indy?
And yeah. Remember that call you made to me? And I called the commissioner up.
Man, I forgot about that.
Jack, you was out.
I was done.
You was done. You was done.
I was done so many times, but y'all remember that.
And you said
I called you.
You called me.
I got something from Al.
Yeah.
That's how I got in touch with you.
And I called David Stern. I said, you can't do that to him.
I was done.
You was out.
I remember that.
You was gone. That's how you got back in the league.
I was done.
I
remember that like yesterday.
Yeah, you should tell that story.
I actually forgot about that, but I remember it vividly now.
Yeah.
I remember because I was trying to call everybody that I figured would help me at that time.
Yeah.
And Al saved me. Al saved me.
No, Isaiah saved me.
I mean, Isaiah saved me, but Al saved me. You know what I mean? Isaiah saved me, but Al connected me to you. Yeah.
And you got back out on the court. How many weeks after that?
3.
Thank you.
3 weeks.
I was in the midst of you were already suspended.
He was gone.
I was done. I was at home already.
He wasn't suspended.
Yeah.
The wheels were greased and he was out.
Huh? I think I called,
Ghostbusters?
Nah, I ain't called Ghostbusters. Donnie Wall, I remember Donnie Walsh, Zeke, and Mike Brown. That's the only people that went to war for me that I vividly remember.
But the only one that got to David Stern's ear.
Yeah.
I went to that man's office. Can't do that to him.
That's dope.
That's not going to happen.
I see me in it.
Damn.
Our show was gone too, man. I'm talking about I was gone.
I seen it.
I was done.
Captain Jack, very humbled right there, very humbled. And this is the type of situation that we don't take into consideration when everyone talks about, oh, Karl Anthony Towns should have had Draymond's back. Towns easily could have been in a situation like this, where he's going to be put in a position, not only losing his money and reputation, but with him getting back into the league. As you can see right here, Captain Jack, he's real humbled right here, talking about the situation, front facing. But every time he tells a story about the Mouse in the Palace, he talks about it as if he's a real one for having Ron Artest's back. But he never talked about what happened behind the scenes. But as soon as someone like Isaiah Thomas brings up what had really happened behind the scenes, Captain Jack's humility completely shines through. This guy's completely humbled at this moment. He's even at a loss for words. So moving forward, Karl Anthony Towns did a sit down where he kind of had to deal with some of these sentiments, where he was asked about, quote unquote, keeping it real about having his teammates back. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Cat, can I be a little nosy?
When you're not nosy.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So, Cat, earlier this season, there was an incident where Draymond Green choked out one of your teammates during the game. Now, some people criticize you for not intervening, but the people they said you didn't intervene quick enough, and this is where I get nosy. I wanted to know about the situation in your relationship with Rudy Gobert, and did you two ever even speak about the incident afterwards, and do you have any more insights to share with us that we don't know about?
I love Rudy. Rudy's my dog. That's one of my really good friends. We talk all the time. It's funny enough, we're supposed to be playing Call of Duty right after this, so we'll play later. But we've never had a problem. I think if anything, me and Rudy's relationship has helped our team tremendously, and it's because we both just want to win. We've never had no problems, even after all of that. It's funny enough, me and him are laughing about it more than anything.
But what they want to know, what took you so long to get over there?
See, right there, there's those sentiments. What took them so long? But there's a fallout from that. Not only this team spent a lot of money on their players, but they wouldn't be able to capitalize on their narrow window to possibly win a championship. And just like the Pacers of the 2004-2005 season, they are the top dogs in their conference. And they're looking to capitalize off that narrow championship window that they have. Especially with that new CBA coming, things could get tricky for the T-Wolves after the 2026 season.
That's what you mean took so long. What took you so long to get over there?
Who's we? What do you mean took so long?
You want to know?
Even Paul George understands, man, ain't no gangsters in this league. There are rarely any gangsters on TV. There's no such thing.
Yeah, I want to know because he almost got suplexed. I was wondering when somebody else big was gonna come over and help out. And don't do that, Dallas. But yeah, we want to know a little bit.
It's like I don't know what people wanted me to do, but if it would have been 3 big old basketball players in a double Nelson, that would have looked crazy. It would have looked crazy. You just got double Nelsons going on.
And for the T-Wolves, it would have been looking even crazier had they fell off from the top of the Western Conference and ended up looking like the Golden State Warriors, dealing with Draymond Green and his multiple suspensions. You see the other side of the coin of those situations? When Draymond gets the sucker punch, he gets the choke out. But there is a negative side to that coin. and that's your team falling down the standings. That rarely gets talked about.
What happened like that day that like what else happened after that situation once it was all said and done? Like what else happened like after the game behind the like anything else go down?
No. I wish I could tell you there was something super good or
You're very good at not answering this question.
I wish I could tell you something cool, but like honestly, we laughed about it. It wasn't even anything like
Yeah. At the end of the day, I don't know what the hell they want Karl Anthony Towns to do. Put his whole career in jeopardy, especially him coming off that pandemic in which he lost his mother. He lost multiple family members due to the COVID virus. And now he's at a point in his career where he's trying to acquire some accolades to kind of solidify himself in the NBA history books. He's supposed to just throw it all away to quote unquote be a real one. Yeah, okay.
serious. It wasn't like we were more talking about how we came out with a really big win there. Because after all of that, we stayed composed, we stayed mature, and we made some really big plays at the end to get the win. So
yeah,
it would have been something if that would have happened, and it would have led to us losing. It would have been something much bigger to us. But the fact that we came out of that game, still had a super competitive game, and found a way to win. No one was really thinking about that. We like I said, our focus, we got a good laser focus and mentality this year and discipline where it's all about putting one in the left column. So we wasn't really thinking about that. After the game, we was laughing and everything.
I thought you responded the way you should have, right? You, regardless of people saying, oh, he could have punched or threw it, like, bro, that's not like, at the end of the day, you're there to win a game and you were there for your teammate. You had his back. You was trying to de-escalate the situation at the same time while not overly, doing something crazy to get you kicked out the game as well, right?
Facts, and kicked out the league. That's the part most players, they're not going to fuck up their money. There's too much money to be made for them to fuck this up. They can't do what Steven Jackson did back in the day. That is just idiotic. The league now has generational money. These guys are not going to be playing gangster on TV. Once again, there's cameras. They're at work. Everything is being recorded. There's no sense to making a fool of yourself.
Right. So I thought you checked every box on that situation, and as a leader, finished the game out and got up out of there with a W. So
come on.
I had your back on that one.
I appreciate it. You look at that.
love that.
He told us some other shit when we was by ourselves, though.
We'll leave that for Call of Duty. We'll leave that for the Call of Duty.
With the Indiana Pacers, we saw the fallout from that. Their pretty much claim to fame today is to go do a documentary talking about the malice of the palace. When really at the end of the day, they should be doing a couple of Netflix series on their championship run, alongside with at the time, the greatest shooter ever, Reggie Miller. That should have been their storyline, not them having the malice of the palace as the highlights, or just, I don't want to say the highlight of their careers, but just the most known thing to happen to Jermaine O'Neal, Reggie Miller, Ron Artest. That just doesn't make any sense. So once again, kudos to Karl Anthony Towns. The Minnesota Timberwolves, like he said, are laser focused because with the new owners that they have, they spent a lot of money. This team is going to be hitting the second apron for the next 2-3 seasons. So them being $17 million over the cap, they're going to have a very finite window to not only make the team better, but to stay healthy and compete for a championship. But you fellas definitely check out the mailbag below. Leave me any questions. I'll feature as a segment on the show. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.